Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited because today I am joined by the fabulous Linda from Voice of a Woman.
Hello, Demi, how are you doing? It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me onto this because this is quite an exciting series you're doing, so it's great to be a part of it. So thanks for asking me.
Of course, I'm so excited you're here. And today we're going to be talking all about challenges women face in the music industry. And I know this is something you're very passionate about, so I can't wait to talk all about this. But before we do that, would you like to share a little bit about how you got started with Voice of a Woman?
I think Voice of a Woman has been something that I've wanted to do for quite a while, but I did Journey of Discovery, which was focusing on independent artists, male and female, but I always had the theme tune Voice of a Woman in my head and just about women in music and the challenges they face and the stories that they tell, because there's just more, more depth and more soul and heart sometimes I feel in a lot of women's music, and I just wanted to concentrate on that. So Voice for Women is about the voice and the music and the stories and just how amazing women are in music and the struggles they face, the challenges they face. And also, it's also a personal side of things where I lost my mother when I was young. And Voice for Women is finding my voice and what I like in the world and what I love in the world. And I suppose trying to find myself and all of that as well. So there's two sides to the Voice for Women, and it's just very exciting to be a very small part of showcasing what women can do in music, because they are slaying it right now.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I completely agree with you. Women in music are slaying it right now, and I couldn't have found a more perfect guest for this episode. So let's get right into this conversation. Would you like to kick it off with a quote by Dua Lipa?
I will do. For a female artist, it takes a lot more to be taken seriously. If you're not sat down at a piano or with a guitar, you know. For a male artist, people instantly assume they write their own music, but for women, they assume it's all manufactured.
That is such a powerful quote. What went through your mind as you were reading that?
So many things. Like, assumptions are something that people make in society all the time, but for assumptions to say that male artists always write their own music is not necessarily accurate for a start. And it's just the labels that they've put on female and male artists. It's respect. It's a lack of respect from that quote. And there's just so much in that quote. There's too much in that quote. You'd be here for ages dissecting that quote. But like it frustrates me to see that that's always in society. It's very frustrating. And it must be even more challenging for some women in music to try and be taken as seriously as their male counterparts when they know what they're doing and they can learn as well. So, it's very frustrating, I think.
It definitely is frustrating. And something you said that really jumped out at me was how it's assumed that female artists don't write their own music. And as a songwriter, that's so frustrating, because when somebody listens to one of my songs, I want them to know that's my story and that's me. And I don't want there to be any question about whether or not I wrote it, because I did. And so I think the whole perspective surrounding women in music and that whole, idea of us not being taken seriously definitely hurts our reputations, because it's almost like our quality isn't as good as that of the male artists, and that's so hurtful being a songwriter.
Yeah, I can see that, because it's very hurtful when women aren't taken seriously, because their talent is exceptional. Like I have discovered incredible artists in country, Americana and folk, and my jaw drops constantly with the amount of sheer talent and the amount of just the production, and they all write their songs. And there is women out there producing, writing and doing everything within the music industry, and the percentages are unfortunately quite low There's collectives all over the world right now that are fighting this because they're getting together. I know it's all women, and they say, "Well, you've got all women collectives," and that's not fair. But there has to be that kind of support for women there because it's 18%, I think, are producing music and writing music within the UK, and that's a very small percentage. And sometimes I think that, does that mean that women are scared off because they're not getting the respect and they don't think they're good enough to do that? Which that annoys me, that angers me slightly, because there could be so many more talented individuals coming into music, and to share their talent, and they're not getting it because there's maybe men in the industry who don't think they'll make it because they don't have what it takes, which I just find, that angers me a lot. So yeah, it's a very. I wish we didn't have to talk about it, and I wish it wasn't a subject that needed such attention on it. And it's not about, because I'm starting with Voice of a Woman. There's a few people that have told me that I'm a man hater, which I am not. Just putting that out there. It's to give women extra support, and it's to give them a voice to be heard, because sometimes what women say isn't heard for whatever reason, and they need to be heard because, my goodness, there's so much talent out there that deserves to be heard in that way, and hopefully I'll do my small part to help that to happen.
Everything you said was so powerful and insightful. So powerful and insightful. And I want to bring up the fact that this isn't something that independent artists face alone. This is something that all women in music face. And I want to bring up Kelsey Ballerini because in 2020, she completely slammed a Michigan radio station for saying that they couldn't play two female artists back to back. And she essentially said that it's disappointing and unfair because we've been fighting for this for so long, and it's sad to see that no major changes are being made. And she also said that women in music work just as hard or even harder than the male artists, which is exactly true. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how these mainstream artists are speaking up because they have the platform to do so, while at the same time, there's no drastic changes being made and we're not taking big steps forward.
See, I remember that Twitter. It was an argument that caused such an absolute. Yeah, that caused a lot of anger that day when that comment was posted. And that comment was quickly deleted as well, might I add, because I don't think I think the DJ must have got into trouble for writing that, even though that's what they do and that's what they're told, and that's from a director, and it's Kelsey Ballerini, and there was also Casey Musgraves that got on in it as well, and they handled it with such professionalism, such diplomacy, and just such great skill, and the way that Kelsey Ballerini handles herself so well. She's such a role model. She's such a brilliant role model for artists who are, successful and stuff. She has great professionalism in everything she does, because I saw her live on C2C, and she was so incredible in the way that she was, and the way that she sang, and the way that she delivered herself, and the way that she spoke with the audience, and the way she engaged the audience. And she was just incredible. And to think that someone of that calibre wouldn't maybe get as much play as, say, her male counterparts, just, yeah. And playing two women back to back, I just don't see what the problem is and why that would be considered to be an issue for some, but it does seem to be, and I don't fully understand the whole. I don't fully understand it, to be honest. I don't know if you understand it to me, but I certainly don't understand it, and that was shocking, but it happens, unfortunately.
I don't understand it either. It's ridiculous, to be honest, but I do want to acknowledge that there are so many incredible people out there who do support women in music and give our voices the chance to be heard. You are definitely one of them. Graham Barnes, who does country ballads, is another. And there are people in commercial radio as well. And I want to share an experience I had recently with LA Will Wait For Me. My song got played on an Indianapolis radio station in the United States, and I was completely shocked when this happened because when I looked at the playlist it was on for the show, it was Taylor Swift, Maren Morris, Thomas Rhett, Ashley McBryde, like big names. And I was like, how did I even get on this? Like, I was so shocked and I was so grateful. So I reached out to the one who played me, and he shared with me that he's been in the industry for a really long time and he sees how our voices aren't heard and he doesn't agree with it, and he does everything he can to give female voices the chance to be heard and independent artists as well. And so he wanted to play my song, and that was so special for me to experience. So there are definitely people out there who will support us and give our songs a chance to be heard and our voices and give us that chance.
Yeah, I remember listening to a country station here in the UK, and I remember thinking, because there was one male artist and then one female artist, then one male artist, then one female artist, then one male artist, and it went on like that for the whole show. And I thought that is really, like, I thought that was really, really good. Like, it's, that they're given equal, and that's all, women aren't doing this to be, all the labels that are putting on them, they're not saying it to be feminist or sensitive or any of those things. It's just, they do not have a fair footing in the music industry, and they have to work 10 times as hard. And all they want is fairness. It's similar to, like, I think it's societal as opposed to just in the music industry, where even the suffragette movement had to sacrifice so much for women to vote, whereas men just had the natural right to vote. But women had to fight, sacrifice their lives, sacrifice themselves, be a lot of problems, and a lot of, like, they were hurt, and it was just awful because they didn't have the right to vote, and they fought for that. So for those women, it's like they fought for me now to have the right to go into a political booth and vote. And that isn't, like, and some women have to fight like that and sacrifice their lives possibly to be able to do similar things to their male counterparts. And that's a disparity, and that needs to be dealt with. And I don't know how we change it, because it still seems to be happening. But we're going in the right direction, hopefully, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Looking back throughout history, there are so many instances of women being triumphant and rising above and taking steps forward, as you were talking about the right to vote, which was a huge one. And the music industry is just one more thing that we have to fight for. And we've done it in history, and I think we can do it again. And the thing about us, the thing about women, is we are so strong, determined, motivated, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to give up until we get equal play and equal opportunities, because that's all we want. When we talk about, making changes, we don't want more. We don't want to be dominant. That's not what we're trying to do. And I think the first step in really taking steps forward is having people realize that all we want is to be equal. We're not trying to take control. And I think once we realize that, hopefully we will take steps forward and changes will be made quicker as we move further down that path.
I don't think it's a lot to ask. It's just to be given the same opportunities. If there's say there's a slot for like slots for festivals, half it down the middle, it's 50-50. You have 50% males and 50% females, and that would be a great way of dealing with that. And then obviously in a show, 50% female airtime, 50% male airtime. I know I'm bit biased in Voice of a Woman, but I do sometimes play males, and I have interviewed males and stuff, and I do appreciate that there's a lot of male talented artists out there. Just female music is my preference, and I just feel so strongly to support women in music, to give them the confidence, because a lot of this has to have effect on a lot of women's confidence and a lot of artists' confidence, and it's just, maybe to give them a message to say, come on, just let's hear your voice, let's hear what you've got to say, let's hear your song, let's hear, what do you want to learn in the music industry, because everyone can learn and everyone can teach, and it would just be would just be nice to see that, a lot of men could get on board with that as well, because some seem not to at the moment. So it's very frustrating altogether.
It is really frustrating. It's so frustrating. We've said that so many times already, but it's true. But I want to talk a little bit about something I've noticed, especially once I got into country music more. The community is unbelievable. The way female artists support each other, the way that people like you and other radio personalities support us, it's truly out of this world. And I'm so grateful to find a group of people who are so loving, caring, supportive, kind, just the best people in the world. And that's what I've tried to focus on, because we all can complain and complain all day long about not getting played on Top 40 radio and not getting big festival opportunities or big playlist placements and all those things. But when you really take a step back and notice that there are people like you out there who support us, that's where you should focus your energy. And that's where I focus my energy, because I can spend time communicating and networking with people like you who are supportive. And I've gotten so much love over the past couple months, and it's because I've focused on that. And when you really think about it, once you start to build a reputation among these communities and stations that are so supportive of female artists and independent artists, then you start to get noticed. And I think that's a way of kind of building yourself up, starting small, building that strong, supportive community, and then going up from there.
It's a very good way, and I have to say that I've seen you doing that so much. Like, you have been getting played on so many radio stations and so many interviews. It's just been incredible, that the growth that you've had in such a short space of time. It's been quite inspiring to see how far you've come on in such a short space of time. So it's a credit to yourself for all your hard work and perseverance. It's amazing to see.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to me. And you're the first one to ever play me, so there you go.
See, I didn't know that when I played it, like at the Christmas time, and then when I'd heard that on the podcast that you did with Dom, I was like, oh, I didn't know that, and that's a really great thing to have. To give someone that kind of confidence, and to have, like, because that's a huge moment, to your first song ever played on there. That's a huge moment, and that's incredible that started that for you, and now you're kind of gone off on your own, and you're doing amazing things. It's great to see.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to me. Thank you.
Makes it all worthwhile.
It definitely does. And I want to bring up something that you mentioned earlier when you were talking about Kelsey Ballerini. You brought up the word professionalism, and that really stood out to me, because I've definitely noticed that it's almost like women in music are viewed as though they're under a microscope. And it's like everything we say and do is watched so closely, and the second there's any kind of slip up, it's like all credibility is lost. And I want to point out that it's not the same for male artists. And I'm not going to say names, but there definitely are male artists who make mistake after mistake, and they're always forgiven. And they're still played on radio and getting these big opportunities when they continue to do and say not so good things. But there's no kind of bad perspective on that. Like, when they do bad things, it's like, oh, they're just, being themselves, it's fine. But if a female artist would do something, it's different. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how there's that big difference between the female artists and male artists in terms of how actions are viewed.
I've been thinking on that a lot. I wonder if it's again a societal thing where, like, I get it a lot of the times. It's this: be a good girl, and there's certain aspects to being a good girl that you need to be doing, and if, like, even swearing is one of them. Like, I don't swear that often, not because I just don't, but if I get really angry and I'm frustrated with something that someone said, I may just mutter under my breath, and it's like, oh, God, that's not very ladylike. And it's if it's this kind of thing that we're not supposed to be, we've got things that we need to do. We need to take care of everybody. We've just to be a good girl. We've just to not have an opinion and not say anything and not be feisty and not be trouble and not be difficult and all these kind of things that not, and everyone doesn't believe that, but there are some strong societal vibes that still come out, that's the way to be, and I think that's part of it. And then boys will be boys. So like there's these two things, that boys will be boys, and that's just because he's a boy. He's just he will do that because he's a boy, and that's But if girls fight, it's a totally different thing, and that is definitely a kind of, that would be sexism. I mean, there's two guys fighting and two girls fighting. Like, they might be fighting over the same things, but the boys will be boys, and they just let it off. But the girls get into more trouble, and you just wonder what all that is about. But yeah, I think it kind of falls under that bracket where we've all to be just good little girls that put on lovely makeup and lovely dresses and just sit and look pretty and not say anything. Which I know is a very outdated concept, and I hope that that's not still going to be part of it. But I do think I do think those two kind of vibes are still there. Boys will be boys, and be a good little girl.
I completely agree with everything you said. And while you were talking, Taylor Swift came to mind because she's been through so much. And every single time she tries to stick up for herself or say something, it's like, OMG, no, Taylor, don't say anything. It's fine. Just go with it. And she's always made out to be like a bad person, and she's always seen as somebody who's acting the victim, but she's not. Like, she's using her voice as she should because she's trying to speak up for herself and speak up for women in music and try to bring about that change. So I really admire her, and she's one of my favorite songwriters, and I really look up to her. And that's the thing, like Taylor and Casey Musgraves, all of them who do this and stick up for women in music, what they do, it's so incredible because me as a small artist, I don't have that platform. Yes, I can say things, but I don't have the following or the big voice to bring about any kind of change. So I kind of have to rely on these other artists, these bigger artists, to kind of speak for me. And I'm happy that there are artists like Taylor and Kelsey out there who are doing that.
Yeah, I think change is happening slowly. I think it's just taking its time. And I know that, radio programmers, like the program directors, like I choose my own music. So I can choose who I want to play and what songs I want to play. I don't really have that much. I don't have somebody telling me, like, you need to play all these songs for your show next week. But in other radio stations, that's what happens. They have program directors who say, well, these are the songs, and this is the list that you have to play, and they have strong direction in that score. And that kind of, and I think radios are kind of paramount in that as well. And I think to change that would maybe change the media as well. The media does play a lot because people listen to the news and listen to the radios and stuff like that. So it all comes from the media. So it'd be good to kind of try and change that, and try and have something that will filter down and just change it, because it's so many incredible women slaying it, and they just deserve so much. And I just hope they're not out there going, I can't do this, and give up. Because no, as Ashley McBride said, never give up, because I mean, she's proof of that as well, as is so many amazing artists that are out there. Brandi Carlile's another great one that just supports women in music, and she did a support tour. She actually supported a few independent artists who were not as commercially successful as her, which was incredible to see. She went to support them, and must have gave them such great confidence and inspiration to keep continuing, and that is incredible to see women doing that for other artists. So there's incredible things happening out there, so I just want to see more incredible things happening like that.
Yeah, there are so many incredible things, and I try to hold on to those incredible things as much as possible. But then every time there's some kind of setback, it's like, oh no, not again. So it's hard sometimes.
No, I think in the music industry, like the music industry, it's a hard maze. I think it's a hard maze to navigate. It really is, with all you need to do. And even as an independent artist, it must be even more difficult. And I think even for males, there must be challenges. But to add on the challenges, the extra challenges that women face, it can be really frustrating, because like there's so many things that you have to do as an independent artist. writing the song and creating the song and recording the song is the first step. But then the second steps and the steps more after that is even more difficult. Like there's promotion and emailing the radio stations and getting interviews and getting your song out there. I mean, that's a full-time job in itself. And, it's the amount of work is just crazy. Like, and it's just, I admire women that do that day in, day out, because that's an amazing amount of work, and that's the effort alone is commendable, and the talent above that as well. I mean, people need to see what's going on. They really do, and I think talking about it is one step to doing that, and podcasts like this is another step to doing that. And if we keep talking about it, hopefully, create petitions or something. I don't know, but just keep talking about it, because it just needs to change, and just it's all about the music for me, and that's the way it should be, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I love how you said it's all about the music, because that is exactly why I do this. I love songwriting, it's such a big part of me. And though I face challenges, I'm not going to give up on my dream because I truly love what I do. But there's so much that goes into it, not only being a woman in the music industry, but also an independent artist. And Joey Clarkson is actually going to be on very soon to talk all about the reality of being an independent artist. So we'll be diving into that in an episode to get that whole other angle of this. But it's just so hard at times because I feel like I'm fighting two battles here, like being an independent artist and a female artist, but I know I'll be worth it in the end, because I truly love what I do. So,
But I see there is the other side of that, where Taylor Swift, because I was speaking to Emma Moore, who has just released The Table, which is just such a stunning country album altogether, and the work that she's done for that is, I mean, everything she's done, the promo and everything is just, she's so incredible. But we're speaking about Taylor Swift and the fact that Taylor Swift had to buy back the rights, or she couldn't buy back the rights of songs that she wrote in her room when she was 16 years of age. And the positive spin on being an independent artist is Emma Moore will now own The Table. She won't have to, in 20 years' time, have to re-record it or try to fight back for getting the rights to own her own songs. So from that aspect, being an independent artist, I've never thought of it like that, but you own your own music, and the music that you've fought so hard to get heard, and you own that. You will always own that. And I think Taylor Swift had such a difficult time trying to get back her music, which I just thought was shocking. And she was prepared to buy it back, and I just thought that was quite a shocking way to be treated. And now she's having to re-record all her albums. So from that kind of perspective, that is a positive angle on independent musicians and the struggles they face. It's a kind of positive spin on it, but there is so much that you have to do, and I take my hat off to all of you for doing all that. Tell you.
I give Taylor so much credit because she's most likely putting a stop on new music to record her old albums because she couldn't get the rights to her masters. And I'm not with the label. I don't fully understand how those contracts work, but the thing that blows my mind is that she wrote those songs. That's her art. And I personally think, like, as a songwriter myself, like, I always make sure that I own everything because that's my art and I want to own it and I have the right to own it. And the fact that she literally has to re-record her albums just to have the rights to her songs is, it blows my mind. But she's a great example of how women are unstoppable. She was like, all right, if I can't have the rights to my old masters, I'm going to re-record all of these songs so I own them. And I think that's very inspiring, and I really look up to Taylor and I applaud her for what she's doing.
Yeah, it's totally incredible, and I think she's using all the original musicians that she used in the first place to do her first album, so it's all organic, and it's credit to her for doing that. But it's now she'll own her music, which is it's her music and her songs, and that's a whole other debate about songwriting and who owns songs and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole other musical debate. But yeah, credit to her for doing all that and for having to do all that, and now she owns her music, which you know, but as an independent artist, I mean, there is a lot of struggles for independent artists, and you have to do everything yourself, from promo to Spotify from everything to promo and stuff. And it's an incredible amount that you have to do. And the passion for you all to keep doing that is, my hat goes off to all of you for that.
Well, thank you so much for all of your support. It means the absolute world. So before we go, what is some advice that you would like to give to any female songwriter, artist, producer, anyone in the music industry, any female in the music industry? What advice would you like to give them?
I think it'd be, if you want to do it, do it. If you wake up in the morning and you have a passion for it and you really, really want to do it, then do it, and you will find a way. And as Ashley McBride says, never give up, because it mightn't happen overnight, and if nothing like this ever does, but hard work and perseverance will hopefully pay off in the end. So just do it. Just get out there and just share your voice, because there will be somebody that will listen, and it might take 1,000 odd emails, but there will be people who will listen and play your music, and you just never know what happens. You just never know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It was such an honor having you on, Linda. Where can you share with the listeners where they can find you on social and listen to Voice of a Woman?
Voice of a Woman is, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Different names, well, not different names, but I'm voice_of_a_woman on Twitter, voice.of_a_woman on Instagram, and Voice of a Woman 20 on Facebook. And my show is on Sunday evenings, 6 p.m, that's BST, on Claremorris Community Radio. And you can get that online on any radio app, but not TuneIn, unfortunately, but you can get it on different radio apps. There's a Streamer app, and you can look up Claremorris Community Radio and you will find me there.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much again, Linda, for being on. It was an absolute honor. I loved talking to you, and we had an incredible conversation. And so thank you again for being on. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And of course, until next time,
Stay right on track.